Waiting for Disney to turn Autopia electric? Disney has spoken and it sounds like positive news, but we'll explain why we're still not expecting anything anytime in the near future, and also why I'd be fine if they didn't. Plus, the critter coronation continues at Tianas Bayou Adventure. If there's anything that the entire Disney Parks loving community can agree on, it's that gas-powered vehicles in a land that is supposed to be representing a vision of the future is kind of ridiculous. So incongruous are these two things that it has been assumption by most that Disney making the decision to convert Autopia to electric has been assumed to be right around the corner for years now. It's practically a meme at this point. But Disney has said literally nothing on this topic ever. I personally do not recall there ever being a public statement by the Disney company regarding the future of Autopia. This morning, though, we got just that. An actual statement from Disney regarding Autopia going electric. I'm not convinced, not just yet. Let's talk about that. Sammy Roth from the LA Times is a climate journalist, and he wrote a piece about the future of Autopia, and after some prodding with Disney, got them to comment on the matter. This is from Jessica Good. She's a spokesperson with the Disney company. Since opening with Disneyland Park in 1955, Autopia has remained a guest favorite, most popular with young kids experiencing driving for the first time. As the industry moves toward alternative fuel sources, we have developed a roadmap. I'm laughing because this is not some new development. This has been something that's been happening for a very long time. I digress. Let's continue. We have developed a roadmap to electrify this attraction and are evaluating technology that will enable us to convert from gas engines in the next few years. By all appearances, this seems to be a very positive signal from the Disney company. They have a roadmap for the future, and they have a desire, a want to convert those vehicles to electric. Now, actually, I've no doubt that they're going to do this in some kind of future. But there are a few things about the statement that give me reason to not hold my breath that this is going to happen anytime soon. First, note that this quote is coming from a Disney spokesperson written with very definite public relations language and is a response for a request from a statement by a journalist. In other words, Disney's not volunteering this information. They are not making an announcement of any kind. They were asked to make a comment or to respond to a request, and this is the result. In other words, they kind of had to make this type of response because the alternatives are a no comment, or we have no plans, or possibly even worse, the Disney is constantly in the process of evaluating all of its options for the future of all of its attractions. All three of which essentially mean the same thing, all three of which mean nothing, and all three of which would result in a collective groan from the increasingly impatient Disney Parks community. But it's not like Disney's never going to update Autopia to electric, right? So they might as well go ahead and say something to this effect. It's the kind of thing that we would expect them to say. Evaluating new technology. This means they're still in the blue sky phase. There's good reason for this though, because it's not as easy as it sounds. They can't just turn these cars electric. You can't just drop a big battery under the hood and send them out there like you would a golf cart. The attraction runs for 16 hours a day, and golf cart batteries don't, not even close. So once we observe that distinction, once we make that observation, now it just becomes a question of determining the scale, the type of batteries that they need, the charging stations and all that. In other words, it becomes about budget. Spoiler alert, Disney and Tesla are never going to get together and collaborate on making this happen. This has been a common suggestion over the years, and actually I saw this mentioned today in this conversation, but it was never going to happen, and it certainly never will happen. We knew this before Elon Musk told Bob Iger to, well, I can't politely say what he suggested that Bob Iger do, but suffice it to say, Elon Musk and Tesla are never going to collaborate with the Disney company on this topic. And that's because that's just not the kind of thing that the Tesla company would do. They don't even advertise. So they're not interested in being in the business of sponsoring an attraction at a Disney theme park. And again, that's before Elon Musk said the things that he said about Bob Iger. So it would make no difference if this was something that Disney actually desired, that they thought it was a good idea. Tesla would have just simply said, no, thank you. But let's say they do get together with Honda, the current sponsor of the attraction. Let's say they get together and they do have a solution for upgrading these vehicles to electric. And that includes the batteries and the charging stations and all of that. Let's say they do have a solution. I'm still not sure that they're ready to do it. And it's for the same reason that they haven't done it already. Even when it was a good idea 10 years ago. They don't know what they're doing with Tomorrowland. No decision can be made about Autopia until they know what they want to do with the whole land, with Tomorrowland in general. Why put any money? This is a conversation we've had about a lot of different projects, often about Tomorrowland, also let's say about the Hollywood backlot. Why put any kind of money into updating Autopia if you're going to tear it out and put in something new in 5 or 10 years? It's the most obvious reason why they haven't done anything at all with Autopia in recent history or anywhere else in the rest of Tomorrowland either. But, plot twist, if there is some kind of truth to the statement made by that Disney spokesperson that they do have a plan for Autopia, if they have a plan for Autopia, then the inverse is true. They've also got a plan for Tomorrowland. It's not Pandora, though. Before we even go down that road, it's not Pandora, because if they have a plan for Autopia, then it precludes that being Pandora, because that's where they would be putting Pandora if they did. And I'll even throw in this little bit of extra observation. I thought the same thing about Finding Nemo. I thought Finding Nemo was a dead attraction. I thought Finding Nemo was dead, that they weren't going to put any money into Finding Nemo, because why should they if they were going to just rip it out and put in something new? They didn't do that. They put money into Finding Nemo. So what we have here is a bit of a chicken and the egg type scenario, but if I had to bet, my bet is that they still don't know. They might have plans, they have ideas, but I think that they're still not committed. There are plans being made for possibly multiple scenarios for Tomorrowland. And it's very likely they've actually taken bids from Honda or from other companies to make those conversions, taken bids to build charging stations, taken bids to find out what it would take, ideas. They've probably drawn up specs to find out if, maybe they could, cut off the back of Autopia and do something else with that. Scott Trowbridge, you guys remember Scott Trowbridge 2 years ago? This came up in that discussion. He's looking at the motorboat cruise area, and it's like, what can we do back here? That's the inference he was making in that little tweet he made. That's still on the table, if you ask me. No matter what direction they go, you still need plans for alternatives, because that's just prudent planning. That's prudent engineering. You need to know all these things. You need to have that information, cost, etc., in order to make an informed decision. So the fact that they made a statement saying that they have a roadmap to electrify Autopia, that could simply be part of a larger plan for the rest of Tomorrowland. And it could be just part of a larger plan that is a plan B. It could be a plan A, but it could also be a plan B. Either way, it is a plan. It is a roadmap. In any event, I don't think the future of Tomorrowland is set. Unless it is. In which case, we should probably be watching the parks panel at this upcoming D23 event. And I hate, I hate that I just said that right now, because that's exactly what I've been talking about in this video, is that we've been waiting for years. We've been waiting for years for some kind of new Tomorrowland information to come out of D23, and every 2 years we get disappointed. This is going back 2 or 3 at least D23 events. Every year there's speculation and predictions, and every 2 years we're left hanging. So that's why I'm not holding my breath this year, because what's the difference between this year and years past? And you know what? To be honest, I'd be just fine if they didn't. I am settled into Tomorrowland as it is. I used to be Tomorrowland 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever, or bust. Like, I was all about new Tomorrowland. But the more that I go to Disneyland, which is a lot, the more I go to Tomorrowland, which is a lot, the more I accept it for just the way it is. I like Tomorrowland just how it is. And I mean, I would enjoy a new Tomorrowland. I would enjoy it. But I'm prepared to enjoy Disneyland in exactly the state it is. It's still wonderful. In fact, I'd be okay if they made it older. Take it back to 1980. Bring back the escalator and all that stuff. I'd be fine with that. Now, real question, honest question. I want you guys to really put some thought into this. Try to imagine walking past the Innovations building or along the track on the way into the queue at Autopia, or even on your way to the monorail. Try to imagine that walk in near total silence. No sounds of the vehicles. Would it be the same for you? Would it be the same for you if you took off in your Autopia vehicle and didn't hear the sound of the engine, once you hit the gas pedal and the roaring of the vehicle going forward? Would it be the same for you if you didn't hear that? Would it be the same for you if you're just driving around in the Autopia Parkway in near total silence? The sound, for me, is the ride. In the same way that the music that you hear, the loop that you hear as you walk through Tomorrowland and you walk through Adventureland or down Main Street, the music that you hear in the background, although it's ambient and it's in the background, it's still the heart of every land that you go through. In the same way, the sound of those vehicles is the heart of Autopia. And I don't know if I want to live in a world where I can't hear those engines. I would even say, hey, what if we turn them electric, but you actually piped in the sound of an engine into the vehicle? That's something that should be considered. I don't know how you replace that. I think I talked about this once in the past. Maybe putting in a radio or the sound of a radio that you listen to while you're driving around. Something has to replace the sound of that engine. You just cannot have it be silent. There's just no way. So that's the state of Autopia. Let's talk now about Tianas Bayou Adventure. We have some news there. We have a new attraction poster, and this is what you'll see advertising the attraction as you walk through the tunnels and entering the park. You'll note that this is for Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, as their version of the ride is very close to opening, but I've no doubt that we'll get the same poster here at Disneyland. Naturally, it has Tiana and the mountain as the center of the image. It's our adventure after all. But the part that I'm noticing, what I want to talk about right now, is the critters. The 6 new characters that we saw in the previous concept art are again being featured now in the attraction poster. And this is not insignificant because it tells us where the focus of this new story will be. It's an ongoing thing that we've been talking about for a year now or so, about how Disney's going to be leaning into the critter aspect of this attraction. And it's part of their efforts to keep Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Critter Country, if not just in name or on a map, but in the minds of the guests when they go there. They definitely want to be critter-centric. Tiana's Bayou Adventure is not going to be in New Orleans. And by that I mean New Orleans Square. Disney has even gone so far as to give us character profiles for each of those critters with art, each with a name and a personality. Octavia the Bobcat, she plays the Vixen, and she's a bit of a daredevil. Claude, he's a Louisiana black bear, one of several, and he's got a very positive view on life. Or how about Finna the Gray? She's a drummer with lots of energy and imagination. Per the update, these 6 will be featured throughout the attraction. Not a single scene, but as recurring characters. As I understand it, it's the music they create that will be the center of this story. In other words, this isn't a Princess and the Frog book report, as we've seen in other dark rides or other attractions around the park. It's going to be a new story, and it's something that I appreciate them doing that. The attraction poster also confirms we'll be seeing Lewis and Mama Odie, who we've seen before. Notably, Mama Odie and her potions will be seen at the top of the hill just before the drop. 2 things missing from this poster are Prince Naveen, though he does appear in one other piece of concept art. Also missing is Dr. Facilier. They have chosen to set this story in the future following the events of Princess and the Frog, and we all know he didn't make it out of Princess and the Frog. So he would naturally not appear in this attraction. Now that's a choice, and I feel like they did this not only just to tell a new story, so that they avoid doing the book report, but also because they want to give this attraction a more positive, friendly, fun atmosphere where he definitely is a villainous, and it creates more drama, I guess, and maybe that's just not the angle that they want to go into. Now, I know there's going to be some debate on that because, he's a beloved character. Even though he's a villain, people still, they love lots of villains. Disney fans love their villains, no doubt about it. But in the end, the only thing that matters, his presence or lack of it, isn't going to make any difference as long as the attraction is good. If the attraction is good, if the animatronics are good, if the theming is good, if it's complete, if they went all the way, if they tell us they put on a good show, I mean, it really doesn't matter who's in it or who isn't, as long as the show is good. Put on a good show. If the show is good and it can overcome any sort of issues that people might have, about the characters or even the story, I'm not even sure that the story doesn't even really matter either. I mean, there should be a story of some kind, but we've seen in the past, you can be light on story as long as the show elements are good, they put on a good show, that will overcome anything. So I'm going to keep an optimistic mind about this, hoping for the best. Stay tuned as we cover this in full detail coming up. Next stop is going to be the opening at Magic Kingdom, which is just down the way. That'll be happening soon. Until then, if you like this show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked. You can follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, guys. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked